What the hell? Something's not right here. Is my shirt backwards? Oh my god. The timeline has changed. I no longer live in a mirror universe. Does this mean that I've changed? Maybe I'm the mirror James, the evil James. Maybe this is that Start the Hate web show that all of the trolls used to say that I should do. Okay. All right, I'll give it a try. Star Trek Into Darkness. This movie sucks. Um, I don't like it because it's not like the old show and thus is bad. Um, uh, let's see. When in doubt, homophobic slurs. Okay. Um, Chris Pine is gay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I mean, we all love Zachary Quinto because he's not gay. Real ladies' man, that Zachary Quinto. No, this doesn't feel right. Even in this crazy, backwards universe, this is still Stop the Hate. Star Trek Into Darkness was fucking awesome. Now, there's going to be two parts to this review. First of all, I'm telling you right now, this is a spoiler-filled review. Second of all, it's not entirely a review, it's also a new thing I'm doing. It's going to be a box office update. And a really serious box office update. The review part will not be serious, the review part will be me geeking out, and then we're going to talk about the box office stuff and we're going to get heavy, but stick with me. Okay, Star Trek Into Darkness. I loved the 2009 J.J. Abrams original film, okay? But it's not really an original film, as I always point out to people who say it's a reboot, it's a prequel. No, it's not. Star Trek was a sequel. There's a you're following the timeline through the original series and Next Generation and the films, and it then loops around using this device of the wormhole and how it Spock changes, Spock and the Romulans change everybody's destiny. So this is a sequel. It stars Leonard Nimoy too, so it's a sequel. Um, Star Trek Into Darkness continues this new timeline. We're getting stories with familiar characters, but in situations that we can't predict. We can't say, well, we know that so and so is going to survive because he's in the original series, and we see all the way up until Star Trek 6 that he's still alive. There's no guarantees. Anybody can be knocked off anytime. And that's kind of the genius thing about it, really. I mean, they could have done a straight up prequel, which would have been boring because we would have been saying the whole time, I know Spock's not going to die because Spock lives, except when he dies, and then he comes back. Anybody could die. They could kill Simon Pegg, they can kill Chris Pine, they can kill anybody in this franchise. And indeed they do, but I'll get to that. So Star Trek Into Darkness is, as some people are pointing out, very closely tied to The Wrath of Khan. Not the wisest choice in some ways for J.J. Abrams, because every time a Star Trek movie tries to tie itself to Wrath of Khan, it gets butchered by Trekkers and There's two. Here's the thing. I'm gonna switch back and forth between Trekker and Trekkie. I've realized something today. Trekkers are the fans that love Star Trek. Just love it. Trekkies are the whiny little bitches that I can't stand. Oh, in that one episode, it didn't really make sense that this didn't happen, because this happened in the other episode, and Chekhov said this, but then, no. Fuck you people, okay? So, Star Trek Into Darkness. I loved it just as much as I did the original movie, if not a little bit more. They bring back Khan in the form of Benedict Cumberbatch, Sherlock from the incredible BBC series. Um, and even though he does not look like Ricardo Montalban, he's pretty badass Khan. I mean, he is a kick-ass Khan. This is another in a line of villains that we've been getting. Really, and again, thank you, Christopher Nolan, for showing people how to do a villain. Because a lot of people say, well, they're ripping off Dark Knight. They're trying to have a Joker. Please, filmmakers, keep giving me rip-offs of the Joker, okay? Because whether it's Moriarty in Sherlock Holmes' Game of Shadows, whether it's the villain in Skyfall, Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan in the new Star Trek, whatever, Loki in the Avengers. These villains are awesome. You're giving me some villains with some depth, with some, that played by really good actors, giving really great performances. Keep them coming. Keep them coming, Hollywood. Um, this is just an awesome movie. It's just a really fun movie. I had such a blast. I'm going back. I never go back to a movie and see it twice in the theater. I'm going back next weekend, and I'm going IMAX 3D. Another thing I never do. I'm doing it. That's how good this movie was. This is the first really good blockbuster film I have seen this year. Iron Man 3, the more I think about it, last video I said I gave it about an 8. The more I think about that twist, the more it goes 7, 6. I'm now starting to think, was it better than Iron Man 2? Iron Man 2 had a better villain. But I digress. I'm not going to be hating on Iron Man. Because Star Trek was so good. That's what I want to talk about. It was so good. Chris Pine continues to give, I think, an amazing performance as Kirk. It would be so easy for him to just do an impression of Captain Kirk. And he doesn't. Here, just sprinkled here and there, just a little touch of Kirk. And it's so fun. Zachary Quinto, a different kind of performance because I think he's really trying to play a part. I think the more I see Chris Pine, the more I'm starting to think maybe he just is. Maybe he has that little touch of Shatner in him. Zachary Quinto is more playing a part, but he plays it really well. He plays it really well. He's a really good Spock. Everybody's really good in this. I think, certain actors maybe even a little bit better than the original cast. A little bit. I mean, Chekhov. Come on. I like this Anton kid. He's a really good actor. He's a really good Chekhov. I mean, I'm not saying anything against the old Chekhov. I'm just saying I never gave a shit about the old Chekhov. Which, by the way, is the other thing about Star Trek. Okay. I never gave a shit about Star Trek until J.J. Abrams came along. I was not a Trekker. I was never into it. I tried, but I was a Star Wars guy. Star Trek didn't, I couldn't, but the thing I realized was I just couldn't find my way into it. There had to be a jumping off point, something that appealed to me, something that grabbed me, and then I went, you know what? I want to go back and give this show a chance. And it's the same thing that happens with, for instance, Watchmen. When I heard that they were making Watchmen into a movie, I read the book. Loved the book. Um, I would never have read the book, probably, if they hadn't made the movie. I love Star Trek now because of J.J. Abrams. But not everybody does. And I know I'm stepping on some toes here because I know a lot of you don't like J.J. Abrams, and a lot of you hate his take on Star Trek. And you know what? Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm not here to tell you that you have to like it or point out why you're wrong. Because, see, that's what I don't like when people who hate J.J. Abrams do that to me. I don't appreciate it. I really don't. I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it when people who hate these movies come to me and try to spoil it for me and say, this is why you're wrong, James. Okay, this is what Star Trek was supposed to be. This is what it is. And what J.J. Abrams did is horrible. It's a bastardized version of it, and it's all action. There's no intelligence to it. And look, I don't care. Stop trying to kill my buzz, man. Okay, seriously. I love these movies. I would say now, thinking about it, this new line of Star Trek movies, my favorite Hollywood franchise going on right now. Again, not to kick Iron Man 3, but Phase 2 just not off to the start that I would like. I would say Avengers was my favorite franchise. This has now taken that spot. I am so excited for the third movie. I hope there is a third movie. I hope there's a fourth movie. I hope there's a fifth movie. I want this franchise to keep going, and that's where we're going to get into this box office business. As I was reading, shortly before making this video, Star Trek Into Darkness underperformed at the box office. Does that mean it bombed? No, it does not. It does not at all mean it bombed. It made 80-some million dollars in the US this weekend. It has made over $100 million overseas. The movie, I think, is sitting on about $168 million currently, worldwide. Now, people were predicting that the movie was going to open at $100 million, building on the momentum from the first movie. And it didn't. And so, what do you think the message boards look like tonight? Oh, man. Just, oh, the movie bombed. I guess everybody realized J.J. Abrams sucks. And I guess there's not going to be another movie, huh? I realize when I say this that I may be speaking directly to a few of you. And I don't mean to get lectury on you, but I'm going to get lectury on you. Star Trek in 2016 will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. Since its inception in 1966, this has been an evolving franchise. This has been a franchise that has changed continually. Whether it's going from the show, the original show, into the movies, from that first movie, which was more cerebral, into Wrath of Khan, which is more action-oriented, into Next Generation, into Deep Space Nine, which I will get back to sometime, Voyager, Enterprise, the Next Generation movies, and what happened before J.J. Abrams came along? Star Trek died. Star Trek died a kind of humiliating death. Enterprise canceled. Nemesis bombs. Star Trek was over, man. Star Trek was gone. Is that what we want? Is that what you want? Do you want Star Trek to die? Do you only want to have your precious original show and everything else, just there never is anything else. Star Trek changes with the times. Right now, the times we live in, people are, they would not sit through a really cerebral movie, which, by the way, that's the thing I don't get. Everybody hates Star Trek the Motion Picture, which was the cerebral, thoughtful one, and they love Wrath of Khan, which is the action movie. J.J. Abrams makes science fiction action movies. By the way, though, I think that he touched on themes in Into Darkness, going to war for fake reasons, and the hubris of striking first at an enemy. Um, these are themes that are present. They are present themes. Drones. That you could make an argument that there's a pretty big discussion about drones in this movie and the moral use of them. And is it better to do that or to send people who could possibly die on a mission? There are themes that are discussed in this movie. But all people do is they say, oh, it's not even Star Trek anymore. They should just call it space adventure. Mm, these are the same people who complain about Skyfall not being a real Bond or The Dark Knight not being the real Batman. I don't know how to tell you this. They're not real. They're not real. They're fictional franchises that evolve over time. This is the current form of Star Trek. There will be another form of Star Trek down the line. And don't we all want that? Do you want it to die? By the way, before I get into the real heavy part of this, let me just also say, aren't we the most hypocritical group of people? Nerds, aren't we? When a Twilight movie comes out, go to any message board. What do the Twihards say? The Twihards say, well, our movie made $100 million this weekend. I guess that means it's pretty awesome and it's better than this stupid movie that you nerds like. And what do we say? Box office doesn't mean a thing. When a Michael Bay movie comes out, what do the Michael Bay lovers come out and say? Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, man. Best movie of the year. Look how much money it made. It's going to be #1. I guess you guys were wrong about Michael Bay. What do we say? Box office doesn't equal quality. When it's a movie we don't like and it doesn't do well, what do we do? I guess Star Trek isn't going ahead with this stupid J.J. Abrams theme to it, and I guess Iron Man 3 kicked its ass. We're hypocrites. We're complete hypocrites. Box office doesn't mean anything quality-wise. Doesn't. Doesn't. Dread and Looper prove that. Two movies that didn't do well, amazing movies. Amazing movies. Transformers proves that. Twilight proves it. Big successful movies. They suck. We know box office doesn't matter, but when we get a chance to crow, man, do we crow. Now, last thing. And you're going to think I'm going overboard on this, but hang on. George W. Bush is president. What do Democrats do for 8 years? I hope he fails. Yeah, look at that. He's humiliated. Barack Obama becomes president. What do Republicans do? Yeah, let's get him. Let's just, Rush Limbaugh's famous line, I hope he fails. We get into these little teams in society anymore. We get on these little groups where we're not part of the collective anymore. We're in our own little individual cliques. And what are we doing the entire time? We're not even trying to better our own agendas. We're just rooting for the other team to fail. Now you're saying, oh, James, come on. We're talking about Star Trek. You're getting into politics. It's a completely different thing, man. No, it's not. It's not. Because here's what's going to happen. All you people who hate J.J. Abrams, who are rooting for this movie to fail, who are watching those box office numbers and cheering, here's what's going to happen if Star Trek Into Darkness utterly fails. Star Trek is dead. It's over. It's gone. Okay, do you really think that any studio is going to invest anything in a franchise that loses $200 million? They're not. They're not going to. Now, Into Darkness didn't bomb, but let's say it did. Let's say it opened horribly. Let's say it opened in sixth place, $10 million opening. This movie tanks. What do you think is going to happen to Star Trek? It's over. People who hate Daniel Craig's James Bond, what do you think is going to happen if that next Bond movie comes out and it fails? Bond is going away. They'll put him in mothballs. We'll see him again in 25 years. They're gonna these movies and the franchises, they only exist if they make money anymore. It's not like the old days where The Man with the Golden Gun or Star Trek the Motion Picture could come out and not do well, and they go, try again. Yeah, reboot. What's a reboot? We're just gonna get the same cast and we're gonna try again. They don't do that anymore. They kill the franchises that don't make the money. Look at Superman Returns. Made its money back, was not the bomb that everybody says it was, but just didn't quite live up to what they wanted it to. And so now you could say, but we're getting Man of Steel out of that. What do you think is going to happen if Man of Steel bombs? All you people who hate Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder, what do you think is going to happen if there's Superman's two losses in a row? What do you think is going to happen? It's going to be over. So are we fans of these franchises? Or are we going to get into our little tiny cliques? Are we going to say, I don't like J.J. Abrams, I like the classic Trek, and I don't want anything that can't be on that level? Nothing's ever going to be on that level again. Because you know what? Two things. One, you are over. What do you want? Do you want cardboard sets? Do you want fake lizard costumes? What do you want? Now, I'm not knocking Star Trek. I'm just saying, they're never going to do that again. Star Trek is always going to be a $200 million budgeted film. And if they can't make it that, then they won't make it anything at all. And if it can't make that money back by appealing to a mass audience and not just Trekkies, not the Trekkers, I'm not talking about you guys, I'm talking about the whiny little bitch Trekkies. If it can't appeal to everybody, if it can't be a movie that somebody who's never watched Star Trek can just walk in off the street and watch, Star Trek will go away forever. And maybe people want that. I don't. I want these franchises to live on. And you know what? It's going to. Star Trek Into Darkness is a critical hit. The critics like this movie a lot. The fans of the J.J. Abrams movies like this movie a lot. This movie's going to have legs. It's going to continue. It's already made a ton of money. People say it bombed by opening at $80 million in the U.S. By the way, U.S. doesn't even really matter that much anymore. If you doubt that, we'll talk about that later on, but why does Iron Man 3 have extra scenes filmed only for China? If China really doesn't matter and the United States is the only thing that matters. Star Trek Into Darkness, it had a decent opening weekend. It didn't do $100 million. So what? Why is that the benchmark? Does a movie have to make $1 billion every time now? Because that will be the death of cinema if that's what has to happen. If it has to make $1 billion every time, that will be the death of cinema. So, in conclusion, Star Trek Into Darkness, I loved it. I'm going back. And if you hated it, more power to you. Go watch the old show. Let me have this new thing. Let people who enjoy it enjoy it. And if you hate it, just do us the favor of hating it a little bit quieter. Don't you don't have to gloat if you think that it's failing. You don't have to tell us why we're stupid. We're not stupid. We just like something different than you. Isn't that kind of what makes the world go round? Should be, anyway.